How's it going, guys? To be talking to you. Bear with me. I'm delivering papers right now, so I might get a little bit distracted while I'm talking. This is the first live stream that I've done on my stream, on my channel, so if you're taking the time to watch it, I'd like to say thank you. Sorry for the lighting quality. As you can see, I'm sitting here at 4:55 a.m. on the East Coast delivering papers, so the lighting's not going to be the best for an hour. Basically what I want to talk about is 2018 in general and how it pertains to the flat earth and the changes that we've had in our community and the tactics that are being used against us and how they have changed as well. Now, what I have noticed is there is a lot of solid evidence out there now, to the point where if you look at flat earth with two eyes that are willing to see, you will understand that there is evidence that you cannot refute. You can try as hard as you want, but when you actually break it down and you look at the evidence presented to you, it does not line up with a globe reality. It just doesn't, okay? So there was a huge uprising in the mainstream media in reference to actually covering flat earth, which I'm kind of split on personally, even though I know all publicity is good publicity, right? Don't get me wrong, I understand that. I just wish the way the world works isn't the way the world works, right? I know for a fact that when people cover flat earth, they're gonna take it from a point of this is a fucking joke. Now, like I said, all publicity is good publicity, but in my mind, man, it just pisses me off. So take that for what you will. But at the same time, when you have ABC devoting an entire morning show's 20-minute segment to the flat earth and actually approaching it from a semi good point of view, I mean, it wasn't a hit piece is what I'm trying to get at, right? So if ABC is covering this and they're giving it validity and the time of day and they're not coming after our throats, like, I can't complain. Now, the problem with the mainstream media starting to cover this is there's gonna be people inside of our community that are gonna get the spotlight, and you know what? They deserve to have it, okay? I'm one of these people where, don't get me wrong, I can sit here and defend flat earth all day, and I can do it in a manner that's not gonna make me look crazy, but at the same time, I don't have the reach nor the influence to make a real difference in how things are gonna progress globally, right? I can affect everything locally. I can affect my day-to-day interactions, and I can get to people. I do that on a day-to-day basis. However, I'm not one of these people that are making videos and having 1.5 thousand people look at my live stream while I'm talking, right? I mean, shit, I don't have any viewers in here right now, and you know what? Most of my videos only get like 30 views. I'm fine with that. I don't care. I'm here to talk because I don't have somebody to talk to on a regular basis that gets it on an in-depth level, right? So these people like Bob from Globebusters, right? I love that guy. I love him, like, because he doesn't make us look crazy. He approaches things from a point of view where he knows that the media is coming for him. He knows that it's a hit job. He knows that when he talks about the flat earth, he has to be damn careful what he says, because everything he says can and will be used against him in the court of public opinion. That's just fact. And once people understand that, we can actually start to make a big difference, not only on our personal interactions, but when it comes to the media. And we have to realize that they're coming for our throats. So here's another example. The Salton Sea experiment. Mark Sargent went out there with about 100, I don't know, okay, I'll say like 30 other flat earthers showed up, and they only had like 5 or 6, maybe 10 people from the actual experimenting team that was trying to debunk the flat earth with this experiment, right? Now, their premise was to go out to a flat body of water, keyword there being flat, take a camera and launch balloons from the ground, okay? And they wanted to see how long and how high those balloons had to get before they could see them over the horizon. Now, due to atmospheric density and refraction, this becomes a huge problem when you're out in a desert. So the experiment was supposed to start damn early in the morning, like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, right? Flat Earth guys are out there on time, and they weren't even invited. They found out this was going down or whatever. National Geographic flew out Mark Sargent, but the other flat earthers weren't invited to be there, but they came out anyway because they wanted to make sure the experiment was being done correctly, right? Because without them being there, National Geographic would have accomplished what they wanted to. Now, because they were going to make us look like fools, we went out there, we made sure that we were faces. So what they tried to wait till later in the day when it got super, super hot out. Now, what that does is cause a bunch of evaporation on the lake. In other words, it's putting up a bunch of water vapor into the air, which causes refraction, mirroring effects, mirage effects, all kinds of stuff over the water. It's the same as looking out at a highway on a hot day and seeing the thermal radiation come off of the fucking blacktop. It's the same thing over water, only it's worse because you're adding moisture constantly to the atmosphere. Okay? In turn, what this does is it makes those balloons that are rising on the horizon take longer to appear. So they're going to be higher in the air when your camera from the other side of the lake can see them, if the camera could see it at all, because of the refraction. So we had a guy out there with a P900. Now, the guys conducting the experiment, they were taking forever to figure out where the hell the balloons were on the other side, right? Now, we had a guy there with a P900, like I said, who managed to zoom in on these balloons while they were still on the ground, okay? They were still on the ground, zoomed into them, and he had it on camera. Now, the people that were conducting the experiment did not see those balloons. They actually used the Flat Earth guy's reference from the camera to find them. So they recorded everything, and because it was later in the day, like I said, by the time they got the balloons up and their side of the experiment set up, an hour or so after our guy caught the balloons on the ground, which is impossible on the globe, by the way. He caught the balloons on the ground. Their experiment was so fucked up due to atmospheric density and refraction that National Geographic totally scrapped it from their documentary, okay? They ended up using a backup experiment with a tiny dinghy, like a little boat. It was like a toy, okay? Like a survival raft for going down the river or whatever, drinking beer. They put it out there on the water with a little trolling motor and 3 people and sent them out fucking less than a mile and a half. And due to atmospheric density and refraction and shit, made their freaking boat on the open water going over the horizon, right? Made that happen due to the fact that it was like freaking 1 o'clock in the afternoon and the temperature was 115 degrees. So what they did was disregard their initial experiment completely because it gave them wrong results that were fucking opposite of what they were supposed to see. So like good men in lab coats today, they threw that evidence away and totally ignored it, right? And then tried to make us look like fools. Well, they were supposed to release this documentary in like November. At the same time, some people put out a documentary called Behind the Curve, which was looking at the social side of Flat Earth in the community, which is actually an awesome flat smacking video, even though it's kind of a hit piece. Anyhow, it was National Geographic was supposed to release it at the same time. However, they didn't because we knew we had them nailed to the wall, and they knew we had them nailed to the wall. So when they ended up releasing this, it was only like 10 minutes on a stupid show or whatever, and it didn't prove anything, and at the same time it was a hit piece to the point where they gave us our fair time in front of the camera. However, they picked moments that I know for a fact, while Mark was talking to him, he was giving them better information than what they put on the TV. Right? So, like, the mainstream media is definitely addressing this, and they're trying to shut it down, but man, it ain't gonna happen. 1 in 3 people under 25 don't believe the Earth is a spinning ball flying through space. 1 in 3 people. It's 25% of the population. No, it's 33.3% of the population. Under 20 doesn't believe the Earth is a spinning ball. That's the United States. That should tell you something. Now, if flat Earth was absolute garbage, right? Why is the mainstream media even taking the time to address it? Why are they sitting there and wasting their time when it should be very easy to prove? It should be damn easy to prove that the Earth is a spinning ball flying through space. But you can't prove it. Neil deGrasse Tyson won't sit down and debate anybody. Every time you see somebody try to debate a flat earther, the debate should only last 2 minutes. It should only last 2 minutes if the flat earth is bullshit. However, astrophysicists can't defend their model. Okay? Astronomers cannot defend their model. When it comes to actually giving us evidence, I mean, they can sit there and throw math at you all day long, but that doesn't make it real. And what's funny is the math that they give us, right? Here's another thing that happened this year. The math that they give us proves that our model is plausible using their numbers. Even if they made their numbers up, it doesn't matter because their numbers work on our model, which just goes to show you, even if they made those numbers up, that just means you can make numbers work on fucking anything because it's math. Math is language. Language is used to describe something. I can sit here and describe to you a purple dog that's glowing with glowing freaking glow-in-the-dark stripes on their back and teeth that are freaking neon green and eyes. You know, I can draw it and make it look amazing and things like that, but at the same time, that doesn't make it real, okay? So here's another thing that happened. We have a guy that went out and he decided he was going to model the flat earth because everybody was trying to make us look like fools by saying, hey, you guys don't have a working model. So what this guy did is he went into a program called Stellarium. And Stellarium is based on heliocentric math, like I've already stated. And what this program does is it shows you how the stars interact with the Earth, how they spin above the Earth, shows you their position, lets you have star maps, all kinds of shit. You can go backwards in time, forwards in time, and all this other shit. So what he did is he took this math, right? Took all the numbers and applied it to a flat earth model after inverting it. And he had to invert the data because that's just how it has to be done in order to insert it into a flat earth model over the azimuthal equidistant map, right? And when you invert those numbers and you set it over the azimuthal equidistant map, it works perfectly. It shows the sun and moon moving around the face of the earth in a circular motion, spiraling inwards and outwards between the winter and summer solstice, down to the fucking minute. Down to the minute. Okay? It's a perfect working clock interface. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And you know what? These numbers are the heliocentric numbers. This is their math. So why the hell does it work on the azimuthal equidistant map perfectly? Perfectly. It shouldn't. It just absolutely should not, but it does. And that's a huge, huge problem for flat Earth when it comes to the globe, okay? Because flat Earth should not have that going for it. It just shouldn't. There's no way around that, okay? So if that's possible and our numbers work, and they're not our numbers, if our model works with your numbers, then you have to admit that your numbers are bullshit because you think our model's bullshit. So how can your numbers work with our model if our model's bullshit, right? That's huge. Now, it should be easy for you guys to shut down flat Earth anyway, right? Right? You guys should have an experiment that proves the Earth's curvature. There should be an experiment that proves a pressurized system next to a vacuum without a barrier. There should be an experiment that proves that the Earth is spinning, but there's not. Every time you give us one, we find out that there's a presupposition, or the evidence is so distorted that it makes absolutely no sense when you try to base it against reality, right? I'll give you a perfect example, like the Foucault pendulum. You guys like to point to that, but I go to a museum and I see the Foucault pendulum spinning left to right, fucking counterclockwise one day, and I go back 2 weeks later and it's spinning clockwise. That's impossible. You like to talk about the Coriolis effect, right? You say, oh, a bullet gets affected by the Earth's spin, blah, 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 blah. Well, you know what? It doesn't. It absolutely doesn't. Because if a bullet got affected by the Earth's spin, a rocket should be affected by the Earth's spin. Okay? And it's not. There's a bunch of other stuff too, man, should be affected by the Earth's spin. If a helicopter takes off, it should be affected by the Earth's spin. But guess what? It's not. So what the hell? How can you have it both ways? And you want me to believe that it goes both ways, because every time we get into a debate, you point to storms spinning in the opposite direction and other hemispheres and all kinds of other shit. Coriolis effect this, Coriolis effect that. But I ask you to point anywhere in a sniper's manual that shows me the Coriolis effect has to be accounted for, and you can't. And the reason I know for a fact the Coriolis effect doesn't exist, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is because my buddy is in the Army, and he works as an artillery gunner, okay? And now his job is to figure out the firing solution for tanks, okay? Artillery. Now, he should have to take into account the curvature of the Earth. He should have to take into account the Coriolis effect. He should. He should have to know exactly which direction he's facing on the Earth, east, north, south, west. He should need to know all of this. But I told him before he went into, after he got out of basic training, they go into their school for their job, and I told him before he went there, pay very close attention when you go to school for me. Don't ask your teacher about it, because it's going to get you in trouble. But I want you to figure out if they ever make you account for curvature or the Earth's spin while you're firing these weapons, man. Because you're hitting targets at fucking 10 miles away, right? It might be less than that. Like I said, I don't know everything. But he's hitting targets at distances where he should have to account for the Earth's curvature and spin. So he calls me up after he gets done with his MOS training, right? And he's like, dude, my mind's been blown. You're 100% right. They don't account for the Earth's curvature. They don't account for the spin, nothing. I asked him, I was like, oh, okay. And give me details. So he's telling me he's sitting in class, and he remembered what I said. And it had been a while since I'd seen him, and he's like, I didn't remember what you told me when I first got to school because it had been so long. And I'd been working my ass off, right? Physical training, all that shit. He's like, they mentally broke me, dude. But I was sitting there and I was thinking, because we were in class doing the firing solutions, and it hit me. It's like I remembered what you asked me to do. So I'm sitting there in the book, I'm going back and forth, figuring out this firing solution, practicing the equations, you know, because they give you theoretical shots that you have to take in class and whatever they talk about, strategy and tactics and shit like that. And he found it very interesting that there was no part of the equation where he needed to calculate the curvature of the Earth nor the spin. Now, he told me straight up, he's like, the way that the trajectory of the bullet fires, he's like, even if the Earth was curved, I don't think I'd have to account for it, because you're not firing artillery in a straight line, it arcs, right? So I can understand that. And I was like, all right, very well, but you should have to account for the spinning of the Earth. And he's like, that's exactly where my mind just couldn't couldn't take this information in without thinking about it. That's what made me remember our conversation about you telling me that the fucking earth was flat. Because he thought I was crazy when I fucking told him. You know, most people do. But he's a good guy, man, and he actually appreciates the fact that I question shit, so he took me more seriously than most people would. But he needed evidence, and I don't blame him. So he did exactly what I fucking told him not to do. He was like, I rose my hand, and I was like, you didn't. And he's like, yeah, I rose my hand, and I asked my instructor to come over because I didn't want to look like a fool in front of the entire class, and I didn't want to put the guy on the spot. And I was like, well, at least you had that going for you. So we pulled the instructor over, and he's like, yeah, I have a problem with this firing solution. And the instructor grabs his paper and starts looking at it, and he's like, no, you're doing the firing solution great, like it works, this is what you need to do. He's like, no, that's not the problem. He's like, I can't understand why this works. And the instructor looked at him all sorts of fucking crazy, because I think the instructor knew where this question was going before he finished asking it, okay? He's like, my mind doesn't understand why this is accurate, because there's two things that are missing here that should be here. And the instructor's like, he didn't say anything. So it was a fishy spot to be in my opinion. I don't think my friend realized like what kind of water he was treading on. So he looks at the instructor and he's like, can I finish? And the guy's like, yeah, talk, right? Because in the military, you can't just come out and say whatever you want to say. You have to ask for permission to speak freely. More or less. So the instructor was like, just say what you want to say. And he was like, very low voice, why don't I have to account for the curvature of the earth and the spin of the earth? Now, he said the instructor looked at him and his face kind of went pale. Okay, and the instructor looked up and to the left, which is a good sign that you're trying to pull something out of your ass. And the instructor looked right back at him and he said, your job's not to ask questions, your job is to do what we tell you. You're doing the firing solution correctly. And that was it. Never asked the guy about it again. I don't blame him. But at the same time, it gave him all the proof he fucking needed, especially when he went out and actually started firing these rounds and they were hitting their target. Okay? You should have to, the math you would have to do in a tank while you were fighting on the move would be absolutely insane. It would make using a tank completely pointless on the battlefield, okay? It's just absolutely nuts. So that's a big part of the year for me, is that my buddy verified that, you know, the military admits beyond a shadow of a fact, without coming flat out and saying it to their people that, hey, the earth is flat. Their people just don't catch on to it. There was another huge development this year. We have a preacher who I'm not a big fan of, so I'm not going to mention his name. Like, he's good for the community because he's getting people to open their eyes about the flat earth. I just don't like his style. Nothing against him personally, I just don't like his style, okay? But he found white papers from MIT. We had a preacher find white papers from NASA and MIT that come out and pretty much admit, well, they do admit, it's hard for me to like accept this because like, even as a flat earther, I didn't think that it would be in black and white, but it is. So MIT works with JPL and all these other programs for the military industrial complex, right? They work with all these guys, NASA, JPL, Morgan and Stanley, all these guys. Right, they're all fucking tied together. All a bunch of Nazis from fucking Germany that were smuggled over after the war. There's no coincidence it's Nazi and NASA are fucking, they sound almost exactly the same. There's no coincidence, absolutely none. Werner von Braun was an evil, evil man who tried to come clean after he that all of the mathematics that they use in order to make the aerospace and the aeronautics industries work are dependent on mathematics based upon the assumption of a flattened stationary surface underneath the vehicle. Okay, you can go look this up yourself. Both MIT and NASA come flat out and admit that their math will not work on a globular model. Now, a lot of people were like, yeah, right, okay? This guy comes out and gets the links. Fucking Pastor Odell. Go look him up, man. Good guy. I don't like him, but he's a good guy. Like, he's not a bad guy. I just don't like his style. And now we have Steph Curry coming out and saying he thinks the moon landings were fake. Now, this is what I love, right? Is we all know the entertainment industry, especially Hollywood and the American Hollywood. Do you know what Hollywood stands for? I bet you don't. Okay, so Harry Potter, right? What does Harry Potter walk around with? Walks around with a wand. Now, what are wands made out of? Hollywood. Okay? Everything is symbology. They put it right in front of your face and, you know, see it. They don't. And I didn't start seeing it until I opened my eyes. I said before I got interrupted, there's no coincidence that everything we see being represented around us in reality today is antithetical to what our ancestors told us. Right? So you have Steph Curry coming out and saying he doesn't believe that the Earth... Well, okay, so he comes out and says he doesn't believe that the moon landings were real. Okay, well, there's no coincidence that Kyrie Irving came out shortly before that, a year and a half before that, saying... One second, I'm driving down a road that's supposedly closed right now. We got a shit ton of rain today. Please don't fall out under me. Fucking A. Holy shit. I just went over a bridge, right? And there's a swamp on each side of it. And we've gotten a good 3 inches of fucking rain here. Now, this weather's fucked up in Massachusetts too, because the papers I deliver papers every night, and it's almost January, and I'm sitting here and it's 50 degrees out right now, which is fucking stupid, but I'll get back to it. So Steph Curry comes out and says that the moon landings were faked. Okay? And then he backpedals a week and a half later because the fucking media does nothing but fucking light this guy up. Light him up. Absolutely light him up. But he's in a unique position because, like I said, he's in the entertainment industry, right? And the entertainment industry is put before us to pull the fucking wool over our eyes, okay? And they do a damn good job at doing it. Now, I find it fucking sad that the same culture that's being exploited by Hollywood is the same culture that was exploited by our ancestors, and it's just a giant circle. They've made us all slaves again, just like the fucking Romans made us all slaves, and they're giving us bread and circuses to keep us entertained. But what's happening right before their eyes is they're running into people who don't want to play their game anymore, okay? So they're throwing a wrench into the way things are working, and they're coming out and dropping little hints like Kyrie Irving and Steph Curry and some of these other A-listers who are jumping onto the flat earth bandwagon, even though they're not putting their name out there right now. There's an A-list following that people don't know about. When guys like Rob Skiba Mark Sargent and D Marble and shit get invited to go back to an A-list celebrity's house and talk about flat earth, and the celebrity does not want them to leave. It's to tell you that, you know, they're onto something. Now, these celebrities also, they've been indoctrinated into the occult. They know the occult better than anybody. They know it better than these guys that have studied the occult their entire lives. And it makes sense because the people in Hollywood are practicing it. They're not studying it. They're practicing it and they're using it. And they understand that it's real, that there's power in words. Okay? Now they're throwing a wrench into the system. And it's not like you can get rid of somebody like Steph Curry or Kyrie Irving because they come out and say the earth is flat, the moon landings are fake. Not when they're putting up 32 points a game and shooting 80% from the three-point line and fucking absolutely destroying everybody else in the league. Okay? And it puts them in a very unique position because they can say whatever the fuck they want and get away with it. Not only that, they have a lot of downtime to research absolutely anything they want without having to sacrifice a paycheck to do it. Think about it, man. These guys are sitting on a plane, sitting in a hotel room. You know, they're playing 82 games a year, but still they have quite a bit of time off. It's just absolutely nuts that this is what they're choosing to do in their free time. Now, like I said at the beginning, people are starting to slowly restore my faith in humanity. And it's really started to pick up this year because I've noticed there's a lot of people looking into a lot of different things, and they might not be to the point where they're hitting flat earth yet, but they're researching stuff like mud fossil theory, okay? And that, I honestly think that's bigger than the flat earth itself because it opens the door to a past that was completely hidden from us. And now I'm lucky enough to live in a very unique part of the country, okay? My mom lives in Hadley, Massachusetts, less than 2 miles away from Mount Sugarloaf in Sunderland, Massachusetts. And if you do any research into the mud fossil theory, you're gonna run in to articles written about Mount Sugarloaf, okay? Because at the base of Mount Sugarloaf, they've discovered 13-foot skeletons. Lots of them. And I'm sure that there's still plenty of them out there today. Now, what happened is there's still records in the local museums and shit. I can go pull them up, but the museums are only open certain times of the year, so I have to wait till the spring during planting season to go into the museum and actually pull up this paperwork. But the Smithsonian came in and they wanted to do research on these skeletons. Now, these farmers didn't realize what they had, and they let the Smithsonian take them because, hey, the Smithsonian's supposed to preserve stuff and preserve it for posterity's sake, right? However, that's not what ended up happening. All over the country, they found skeletons inside of these mounds left by our ancestors, and these mound people were 13, 15, 16 feet tall, okay? And that totally goes against everything that history has taught us to be real. But you can't deny it when you're holding a femur that's as tall as you are. You just can't. So people were looking into different things, and everybody's waking up at the same time. We might not be waking up to the same things, but that's not how knowledge works. See, as humans, we're in a very unique position where I can research something completely different than you, right? And then we can come together after 4 years of being apart, and if we've done our research properly and we've used zetetic science like it's supposed to be used, I don't have to take the time to do your research because you've already found enough evidence that's hard and concrete to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that what you're saying is true. That's a beautiful thing. I'll be right back. I have to drop a paper off on somebody's porch. But it's a beautiful thing. Muhammad Ali said a very interesting thing. I was listening to such a good orator, man. That guy could write too, okay? He has a poem about truth, and he's like, fact is nothing more than a truth shadow. Fact is great, but the truth stands above everything. That's paraphrasing it, but it's true, okay? Fact can be argued with. Truth stands on its own 2 feet and is self-evident before everything, because it was given to us by God. Period. The end. Period. The end. Okay? So, as long as what you do is based in a foundation of truth over everything, you don't have anything to worry about. But you cannot hide from the truth. You either love the truth or you hate the truth. There is no middle ground. You can believe whatever you want, but when you're given sufficient evidence to smack you in the face and tell you what you believe is bullshit, you either love or you hate truth. You're presented with a crossroads at that point. And a lot of people aren't willing to put their ego and pride aside and admit they were wrong. And that's why the Bible tells you pride is the greatest sin of all. Because if you stand before truth and close your eyes, you turn your back on God. Plain and simple. And I don't care what you call God. It's irrelevant to me. Because all religion is the same with the exception of a few, but it's all the same. And the few that I'm talking about are completely antithetical to everything that came before it. And I'm not going to get into what those religions are, but we all know what they are, okay? I don't have to spell it out for you. So if we have the entire world waking up to different things at the same time, and everything we're waking up to tells us we've been lied to, why the hell would you trust anything that's coming from you from an organization at all? Because, like, look, a person might have the greatest intentions. I could start a group tomorrow that was devoted to the truth, okay? I could do that. But I'm telling you right now, even though my intentions were pure, as soon as I start inserting other people into the equation, things are going to get convoluted because people are self-serving. That's human nature. That is a disease that was given to us before any of us were even a glimmer in our Father's eyes, right? That is the human curse, is that we are self-serving instead of serving God. That's why we are in the position we're in. There's no doubt about that. You can't argue it. You just can't. I don't care what you say. I don't care who you are. I know for a fact that you can feel things around you changing at an exponential rate. And that's the biggest takeaway from the last year, is that I don't care what you believe in, who you are, where you're from. I know for a fact that you have felt the quickening around you. Because no matter who I talk to, even people that aren't conspiratorial minded at all, feel the change around them. I was talking to one of my friend's moms and I asked her, I was like, I got a weird question for you, but I want you to answer it if you don't mind. And she's like, okay. I was like, it's nothing personal, don't worry. And I was like, the last 2 years, what is your biggest takeaway from what's going on? And she looked at me and she was like, crazy. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, I don't know what it is, but I can feel something in the air. I can feel the tension. I can feel people. And I knew what she meant because I feel it too. And what's happening, in my opinion, is everybody's vibration is either going down or going up at a very fast rate. Okay, so the people who are researching these off-the-wall subjects that have been hidden from them, their vibration is increasing to match the world around them because they're finally starting to see the world for what it is, okay? While at the same time, Hollywood is getting a stronger and stronger grip on the people that they've had control over. Now, once you wake up to things around you, man, you can't go back to how it was before. Once you realize that the flicker rates on the TVs and everything were designed to fuck with your brain and fucking sedate you and shit and program your mind, there's no coincidence that the TV has programs on it, because what that TV program is doing is programming your mind. Do some research into how TV was developed and you'll quickly see that TV was designed to have a flicker rate. Now, what a flicker rate is, the hertz that the machine operates on makes the screen flash in a way to match brain waves in your mind to sedate you, okay, and make you very, very easily influenced. And that's what they've been doing since the 40s. They've done it with music. They've changed the hertz that the music is played at, everything else. So everything that's given to you by mainstream media, by Hollywood, has been fine-tuned to sedate you and program you and indoctrinate you into their way of thinking. Now, as soon as you wake up to that, your vibration will start to match the world around you, and you'll start to see reality for what it is, whether you want to or not. Okay, it reminds me very much of what happened to the Native Americans, supposedly, when the white man came on the boats. Now, before the white man got here, disease preceded them because it was being brought to shore by birds and shit, okay? It ended up wiping out like 80% of the population. Now, when you lose knowledge from elders like that, you lose your history, okay? And what that did is it put a bigger veil between those Native Americans and reality. They couldn't see reality for what it was anymore. Now, when the white man came on the boat, they sat out on the horizon to observe the shoreline before they came to shore to make sure they weren't going to get slaughtered by aboriginals or anything like that. Now, what they failed to realize is 80% of the population was already destroyed by the disease that they had immunities to. It's besides the point. However, the population that was left, who lost all that knowledge before them, because their ancestors did have contact with people who came on boats prior. The Vikings were here long before the Pilgrims showed up, long before the Protestants and the Calvinists set foot on native soil, right? So they would have known what a boat on the horizon looked like. However, all the people who would have known what that was probably passed away due to the disease. So the people who are looking on the shoreline from the shore out at the horizon, and they weren't seeing these boats. There were reports of sea monsters and stuff and shit like that because they didn't know what they were seeing. Okay? Now, what's interesting is when the Pilgrims, Calvinists, whatever you want to call them, decided to come onto the soil, because there had already been contact by white man. There was an Indian who spoke English, okay? And once he figured out what was going on, and figured out, hey, there's a boat out there, and he was told to get up, and what the fuck was going on, all of a sudden, everybody in the tribe could see that boat, could see that ship. It's kind of funny how that works, huh? It's actually kind of scary. But what it tells you is, there can be something in front of your face, you just won't be able to recognize it for what it is. As soon as you wake up to that vibration, as soon as your body realizes, hey, I'm interacting with something here, bam, all of a sudden you see it. Now, that's what's happening. I don't care what you're looking into, do the research you're doing, because what it's going to lead to is a higher vibration, period, the end.